Guys, what's up? I'm Jishin this side, the founder of MY Academy, and today we are going to talk about C++ in detail. Detail, right? Okay, so last video, to be real quick, we printed out hello world. In this video, what we are going to do is we are trying to take the input from the user, right? So what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to print out hello, enter your name in please, and then the user will enter in their name, and then after they enter in the name, I'll print out hello whatever the name is. So for example, if I say hello, what's your name, and the person replies George, so after that I'll print out hello George. Make sense? Okay, if not, that should make sense. I don't know why it's not making sense. That's real simple. So these things should look familiar to you, right? Not these things. These things should be real clear, real simple for you guys. No rocket science. I explained it. If you don't know, go back to my video one, watch it there. Okay. Now, when I say enter your name in, you know your name, right? You will say my name is George. It's my job to remember, oh, your name is George. Okay. How will I remember it? So when at the time you say my name, at the time you say George, it goes back into my memory, it goes back into my brain, and I store it somewhere. Clear? Similarly, when you're writing a program, even for the program, when you enter in something, you need to store it somewhere. So for storing there, we call the things that store data, we call them data types. Why we call it data types? Because it's storing numerous datas, right? So if you're entering George, it will save George. If you're entering something, what's your age? You say 10. So you are storing it. You are storing a 10. So what you are doing is 10 is what? A data, right? So it is a data type. There are several data types, but in this particular case, what we are trying to do is to take in the name as input. All right. So we'll just talk about a single data type. What is a data type? Again, data type is anything that is being used to store a data. In this case, we are trying to store a name. So whatever data type that is being needed to store a name, that's what we are going to talk about. So strings. Oh my God, not ring, string. String is something that can be used to take in the input. Not input, my bad. So string is something that can be used to store a name. So string, it's somewhere in the memory, right? Whenever you say string, the program, the computer will be like, string, oh, you're going to talk about some words, that means, right? Now what string? There are numerous strings, right? You say strings, doesn't work, right? Even when you talk about brain, what happens? Brain has different paths, right? So whenever something goes in, it goes to a specific part of the brain, right? Similarly, when you talk about strings, you have to be specific, right? Because maybe you are creating a string name apple, and at the last second, same after it, you are declaring another string called okay, let's say you called string apple, you say string banana. I don't know why I keep spelling banana. I don't know. Anyways, that won't work. Why? String apple, string banana. What the heck is wrong? Why would it that? Why would that be wrong? Because what if you want to print apple out? You'll have to print out string because that's storing in the input. But you have two strings. How will you print it? Getting my point? You want to print apple, but you have two strings. How will you print it? That's why you need to assign name, right? So you will say fruit equals apple. You will say other fruit equals banana. And then if you say, okay, let's see out fruit. Why? Because you wanted to print out apple. What will it print out? Let's see. Prints out apple. See right there, it prints out apple. Right? That's why string, when you say string, it just tells the computer that, oh, you are talking about some type of words. Good. And when you say this part is referring to. So string is just technically telling you we are talking about the words, but when you give it the name, tells you that string that is been named fruit is talking about apple. String that is been named other fruit, that's talking about banana. And then when you want to print apple, you would just have to write string cout fruit, that we did. If you want to print out banana with I can't spell right at all, you could you'll have to write cout other fruit. Make sense? Should write. Okay, now let's try to write our program. Let's get easy thing done first. We are just printing out enter your name. Enter your name. Good. Now I have to do this and a little bit of space. Other thing that I didn't talk about. Oh my god, how will I take the input? Hard. It is hard. Oh, before I take the input, if I take the input, what's your name? George. I need to store it somewhere, right? So for that reason, I'll have to create a string, because we are talking about words. String, and I'll have to name it. You can name it anything, but name makes more sense to me because we are taking in the input of name. Good enough? Now, what the heck is cin? Cin is a command that enables you to take in the input, but you can't use cin and cout if you don't have include iostream, because that's where you are including the whole library. You're including input output stream from the library, so you need to have them, right? Okay, so cin just helps you to take in the input from the user. Now in this kit, what are we taking the input? We are taking the input of name. Now what is going to save it? It's this string name. So name, right? Because whatever the user will type in, oh, I think I paused for no reason. Anyways, so whatever the user will type in this case, name. Okay, so I know my drawing is getting little horrible here, but I want to explain you. So let's say I type in George. So ultimately it happened. So ultimately George is the input, right? So George will be same as name. George will be same as what? Name. Now when you talk about name, I already have a name above, right? String name. So it will go here and sit in this place, George. Is it making sense? So user types in George, it goes here, it's saved here, because this is the command that is taking in the input. Now name, I already have a string called name that is blank. So this name, whatever is here, will be equal to the string name. This name, whatever that is here, will be equal to what the user types in. So that will be the value of the string name. It's confusing, but that's how it works. All right. Okay. So that technically makes sense now, right? You can take in the input, and by this point I think I can be reliable, trusting you that whatever has been entered in has been stored here. You know how. Now what we are going to do is we're just going to cout the name. That's kind of unfair, right? Let's say your name is That's even mean, right? Your name is, instead you should be, how are you? Okay, now how are you? That will be printing out. This things what I have here, they are just giving the space to for this to print out name, whatever the name is. So if I enter it's George, it will be George. If you enter in MY Academy, this will be MY Academy, and then this will print out the question mark. Let's run the thing up. Oh, oh, it shows no error. See, clearly ask you what's your name. What do you want me to type in? Oh, unfortunately I can't hear it, so I'm just going to type in, my name is, so one more thing I like to point out, it just takes how are you my, it does not pay attention to academy. Okay, so right, it has to do, it's not wrong, it has to do something with more detailing. That's what we are not going to do today. I'll leave it up to you to figure it out. However, I'll still cover it in my next video, but that's not our main topic for this one, right? So let's say I'll type in Jishan and it'll say how are you Jishan, right? Or let's say typical example of George, how are you George, and our returned statement is what, 0. So the code has run perfectly, no errors, nothing. So this point I'm assuming that you know what strings are, when are the strings used, why I have written string name there, right? If someone inputs it, how does it go and get stored into the string name, and also I'm assuming you know how this thing is printing up. I spent more than enough time to explaining all this. You may find it slow, but that's how I explain it, to be real clear, real simple. If you're learning that for the first time, that's how I explain. It's not review, it's explaining to the beginners. So that's it. That's Jishan Desai from MY Academy. We'll see you next week.